Hello, Lagos, and welcome to another exciting episode of Everyday Money Matters, proudly brought to you by Nairametrics, where we break down and make sense of everything money, and how it affects and impacts you as everyday Nigerians. And of course, today is another exciting topic. Today we'll be discussing Nigeria's GDP rebasing in relation to the debt ratio, MPR, recently had MPC meetings, and of course, you know we can't talk about this without including the National Bureau of Statistics. Yeah. Because today, while you say inflation is usually on steroids in Nigeria, the NBS says otherwise. The NBS says Nigeria's economy is growing. According to the latest report, Nigeria's GDP grew by 3.13% in the first quarter of 2025. They claim stronger than this time last year. And not just that, our public debt to GDP ratio actually dropped, thanks to something called GDP rebasing. But what does this all mean for you? What does this mean? Does this mean our things are actually getting better, or are they just rearranging numbers? Does this mean Nigeria is safer to invest in? And if agriculture and manufacturing are still struggling, what sectors are really benefiting? On today's episode of Everyday Money Matters, we aren't just reading the headlines, we are breaking them down. And joining me is someone just like Kayode was already correctly introduced, I dare say, is beauty and brains. We have with me Tolulope Fasonya. She's the head of research at Nairametrics and a seasoned economic analyst. Welcome, Tolu.
Thank you, Shegun.
But before you get into the conversation, Olusegun, when you were doing your intro, you made mention of the fact that you spoke about the new rebasing. I think we are now at 300 something billion.
Yes.
From 205. But when you said they claim. Now, when it comes to finance and feedback from government, when it appears to be positive, we say they say they claim. But when it is negative, we say our economy is. So I'd like Tolu to speak on this. Why is it that it's easier for us as Nigerians and even in the media to say when the economy, they say now that, you hear me say, they say the economy is rebounding, and we say, they say, the NBC says. But when it is negative, we say Nigerians' inflation drops again. It is this, it is that. That is one. Secondly, when you say we are rebounding, to the average Nigerian, nothing has changed. So what does rebounding mean in this case?
Thank you for the question. So as per Nigerians, we need to take steps to start understanding data. And it is not far-fetched that not everyone is in this field and not everyone is interested in finance or wanting to understand all of this. But the reason people would not agree to anything that the government or the agencies are telling us that things are getting better when they are not feeling the impact. You're not feeling the impact. You're saying inflation is reducing. Headline inflation is reducing, and food prices in your area are still going up. Maybe not all food prices, but major food prices, staple food prices are going up. Yeah. And you're not feeling it. And they're telling you that it's actually coming down, like the figures are declining. An average Nigerian will not accept that. So they are not just figures, they are statistical figures, they are calculated. And is the economy rebounding?
But is it possible that the economy will be rebounding and you would not feel it as a Nigerian?
Okay, so economy rebounding in this situation has to do with different factors. Number one, the rebasing that Shegun mentioned earlier, which means that we need to also break that down. And also for the fact that headline inflation is declining does not mean that it is only headline inflation that we have. We have core inflation, we have food inflation. Food inflation majorly affects food prices, right? So that's especially for the month of June, says that it's increased from 21.14% to 21.97%, which shows or captures what an average Nigerian is feeling actually. And also from state to state, we have different inflation that affects different inflation rates, right? That affects each state. So majorly as a research person, by the time we publish those figures, and we usually do something on Nairametrics page, insights, and when you go to Nairametrics Instagram page, you would see the most expensive states to live in a certain month, and the more affordable state to live in a certain month. I could remember in May where we have Lagos in one of the most affordable state to live in. A lot of people argue, how can you say Lagos is more affordable than most states? And that's because most of the people that made such comments, if you would check, they would likely not have lived outside of Lagos. Right? And I had a conversation with a young chap within the company that had schooled in Edo and also NYC in another state, and would categorically accept that data because he understands that prices in those states are actually higher than what he gets in Lagos. So, of course, people would talk from their reality. Do you understand? So
no matter what the reality is.
No matter what the statistics are saying. And how NBS gets this data is that they collate prices from each state. And, you know, they collate prices of, we have about 700 and something, you know, food baskets.
Index.
That in the baskets, items that is in the basket that they actually collate data. So that is why it takes them a month, and it takes them about 15 days after the new month to actually get or be able to calculate what
because it's
the
rigorous
previous
work.
month. It's a rigorous work.
Okay, so from what you said now, so that my listeners can understand, because on the earlier edition, we don't just want to analyze and critique or praise. We want to break down. So what you're saying is that every time you hear headline inflation drops or increases, you need to go into the data and understand what each element is. Like in this case, headline inflation dropped, but food inflation increased slightly, marginally. So that means that, yes, overall inflation might have dropped, but you still have other components in the food set. And it's also possible that there might be times where inflation might increase and food inflation might drop a bit.
It is possible where headline inflation is increasing. So the core inflation is all items, less energy, and food, farm produce.
That's the core inflation.
That's the core inflation, which means that every other thing, which is the core of the economy, if you remove farm produce, if you remove, the energy sector, right? If you remove energy, it means that...
And by energy, not power, it's oil and gas. Or when you say energy...
like it encompasses that.
Okay, all that. All right.
So, and the June... inflation figure, CPI also shows that the core inflation also increased marginally. So it actually captures, but the headline is like the average of everything. Do you understand? So it captures, it is all item, then it also captures for all the states. So definitely some states experienced lower prices due to different factors. Lagos State now, why to experience some, some decline, or maybe it won't be as expensive, or the rate will not be as high as other states. Due to different factors. We have ports in Lagos. Some states do not. Right? So you expect that some imported goods are cheaper in Lagos. Right? Then also, there are states that are battling insecurities, and it's going to affect food production, right? Farmers are unable to go to the farm. They're unable to do anything. Even when they have crops to harvest, they're unable to do that. So what do you expect? And if there's also access to road network, right? So food, different things being transported to the state. So there are different factors to check before you can conclude that the data for a certain place or a certain is false or is true.
Accurate. Okay. All right. Well, let's get back on track. I just need Nigerians to understand what it means before you go into, because looking at Lulu Shegun, he's going to be very technical with this segment. So let's now get technical.
So I'll try as much as possible to demystify such a way that people at home can understand, because actually what Nairametrics is actually trying to achieve is that everyone understands finance, right? We bring it to you timely, and we also want you to understand it. So I'll try as much as possible to break down in such a way that an average Nigerian can understand.
Okay, so now let's talk about the sectors, because while we saw the services sectors like the entertainment, the fintech sector, we saw one very important sector just grow by 0.07%. That is the agriculture sector. And I dare say Nigeria is a food basket on its own. Well, so many people, I mean, food is a staple. So many people depend on it. Can you give reasons as to why that is the case?
Quite a number of things, right? The digital economy is growing. In many years back, we don't have the creative sector. I mean, a lot of people are into skits making. A lot of people are into just online content. A lot of people are producing content from that aspect. A lot of people, our content space, social media space has allowed the film industry to also grow, right? A lot of funding is coming into it. So you expect growth in that area. Almost everyone can actually produce content and it will sell. No, even if it doesn't even have to be in English. It doesn't even have to be in universal language. Just Yoruba. Some people there are some people like Kamo State that people enjoy his content simply because it is indigenous language, right? We also have others that are indigenous Igbo, like their content is just indigenous Igbo. So that sector is growing. The creativity in that sector is visible. And our film industry is they're exporting. They are making all effort to export our product. So yeah, you expect massive growth in that. For agriculture is also meant to grow. But I've mentioned one of the factors that is actually affecting that area. Insecurity is a very, very major factor. Yeah, we also have financing. Financing is a very big issue, although the government is trying. Although we've had in the past we've had DFIs that actually invest in agricultural sector, but I think DFIs and international investors are even more concerned about other areas, other sector of the economy. And for agriculture, agriculture is good to grow. It means that our food produce is growing. In fact, I personally believe that agriculture sector would probably have recorded negative growth, given that a lot of states, in fact, if the situation is so for Q2, I wouldn't be surprised because there's more flood situation, disaster, insecurity in Q2 than Q1, right? And for the fact that individuals, as we have more individuals flocking into the creative content industry, we also have people individuals that are going into the agricultural sector too. So I can decide to venture into agriculture. We've had lawyers that left their job, their career to focus on agriculture, and they are mostly not in areas affected by this natural disaster because they found different ways. You can be in Lagos and have farmland, and you have different ways to ponds and everything to capture all these livestock and everything. Okay. So that is, I dare to say that is one aspect of it that is adding to the growth in agriculture. Yeah, it is good for the agriculture sector to grow, but much more, it is better that we have more growth in manufacturing sector than the agricultural sector.
Still, according to the reports, we saw the Nigeria debt to GDP ratio drop to 39.4%. And what does that even mean? Let's even start. Can you please explain to the listeners what debt to GDP ratio means?
Okay, so debt to GDP ratio is you're dividing the total debt of the country, all the debts, both external and domestic. You add all the debts that Nigeria is owing as at a certain period, and you're dividing it by the gross domestic product. GDP is gross domestic product. That's the productivity of the country or the economy as at the same period of time. Then you divide the debt by the GDP. So that is why debt comes before the GDP. So debt to GDP. So debt divided by the GDP times 100/1, or you just divide it and turn it into the percentage. So that is what we're having here.
Yeah, so we saw Nigeria's own drop to 39.4. Does that mean we suddenly owe less money, or does it just look better for the books?
We don't just owe less money, and it doesn't just look better for the books. So what do I mean? Before rebasing, I dare to say that our debt to GDP was around 183 point something percent, right? Because at the time, if you check the Q4 2024 GDP report, you'd see that the nominal GDP was around 81.23%, 23 trillion rather, compared to the 372.22 trillion that we currently have. So the rebasing had to bring the adjustments, and I think I should quickly dive into what rebasing means.
Yes,
so
please.
rebasing means that statistically, Nigeria start to calculate the productivity and prices of, there's a benchmark, right? GDP is benchmarked against 2010 prices. So 2010 to 2025, that's about 15 years, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, that's 15
Yes.
years. So that gap is too much to capture the size of the economy, to capture the structural changes. So if you check properly, 2010, we do not have much. Our digital economy is not as much as we said. We don't have fintechs.
Yeah.
Even if we had, it's not as pronounced as this.
It's as it is
Now,
today.
Being someone that had been also in the venture capital space, I know the number of fintechs that I spoke with, fintech founders that I spoke with at the time. We have, and from the past 2-3 years, we continue to have more fintech companies. Then we continue to have more skit makers, more content creators. You can't even call them skit makers. Some people just create content based on lifestyle and all of that. So all of these things were not properly captured in 2010.
Yeah, I agree.
But so that is why there's a need for rebasing. So rebasing has to come every 5 years, according to what NBS explained in January. So it has to be every 5 years. And for the fact that NBS had left it for too long and not rebased. So rebasing in this situation is just like blood. Let me take it to what a lot of people understand. It's like blood pressure.
Okay.
Right? So for someone that has high blood pressure, you want to regulate it. Right. And the NBS, being the agency in charge of our statistical outputs, need to also check the health of the economy. So they need to check how the figures fluctuate. Right. So they had to bring it back to 2019. So we have moved from comparing our current figures to 2010 figures to comparing it to 2019 figures. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we no longer use 2010 figures. 2010 prices, we use 2019 prices.
Okay.
And NBS explained in January why they had to settle with 2019. 2019 to this time is about how many years? About 6 years compared to the 15 years. So we've cut out 9 years behind. So what am I saying is this? 2019 is relatively a stable year. So we would expect that it would have gone for 2020 or 2021. So 2020 is about 5 years. Do you understand? So 2020 would have worked better. But 2020 was the year COVID hit Nigeria the most and the rest of the world. So it's not quite a stable year to be used for that comparison.
Was still injectional
Even 2021.
stimulus,
So the economy started recovering late 2021. Then start doing better from 2022. Right. So 2029 is a very good year to use. So this means that if price of something was 10 naira in 2010, at 2019 it should be around 50 naira or maybe 45 naira. Okay. So if you're not comparing 45 naira to maybe it is currently 100 naira or 120 naira, can you say that the percentage difference will not be as large as if you compare with 2010. So on that basis, it actually helped to capture properly. So apart from the prices, I mentioned earlier some aspects of the economy that were captured. So arts, culture, and creative industry, digital economy, and what other one are properly
even
captured.
Services.
Fintechs are part of the digital economy. So the creative industry, the content is part of the arts, culture, and the other one. So we have those ones properly captured in 2019. So on that basis, we now have a properly represented, we now have a better size, like the size of the economy is better represented. It does not mean that anything changed. It's just that the comparison changed. So it actually gave us what the true size of the economy should look like. And because we now have a larger nominal GDP, you can't compare 372 trillion to 81 trillion
True.
that we had based on 2010 figures. So that gap is there, definitely. And then, of course, our total debt did not change. The total debt is real time. Do you understand?
Yeah.
As of that particular time. So if you now divide that same 149 trillion naira debt by 372, of course you have lesser figure. So it does not mean literally that anything changed. It's just that we're able to capture the size of the economy properly.
I did tell you that she is beauty and brains.
Yeah,
So shall we talk about the sectors now? We saw the electricity and gas go up by 18.65%. Art and entertainment go up by 9.6%. Water supply and waste management by over 9%. But some other sectors that we call other services didn't do so well. So what does this mean? Does this mean these are sectors Nigerians, especially young ones and small businesses, should be paying attention to?
Yes, that is absolutely right. These are sectors that people should pay attention, or that attention has been drawn to. Do you understand? Attention has been drawn to this aspect. I'm talking about waste management. We have a lot of recycling companies right now. We have a lot of them. In fact, an average Nigerian, a common man on the streets, you see them picking bottles.
Okay.
You see them because there's incentive, right? If you pick PET bottles, maybe a dozen, there's an amount you get for it. If you're able to turn in 10 dozen, there's an amount you get for it.
It even encourages you to even sort and keep your
a
environment.
kg is about 250 naira.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's measured by kg, as I said. So that's the thing, right? And also the fact that there is more funding, both local and international funding, based off SDG, right? So SDG is Sustainable Development Goals, and because SDG, there are international organizations that invest in African countries, right? Because they want to ensure that there's more clean water in rural areas. There's more waste management because it helps gives clean environments. It also helps climate change. Do you understand? So they don't want people to burn papers, burn all these bottles and all of that. So we also for the clean economy, right? You see that there are certain areas that once it's rained, there's flooding. Why? Because the drainages are clogged.
Yeah.
Right. But right now it's beginning to adjust because people are no longer dropping bottles, dropping different things.
They even feel the responsibility
in the drainage.
to pick.
They feel it's not responsibility. They need the money. They get something for it. There's an incentive.
Business in waste.
Okay.
It's business. Do you understand?
Okay.
It's business. So that's it.
Okay. So all of this sounds good to hear. I mean, when we started, Kay already said that the regular Nigerian thinks. But if the economy is growing, why don't we feel it in our pockets? I mean, why? I'm talking about still on inflation, and how can the government translate this growth into real impact on the economy? Talking about jobs, food pricing, and the likes.
Okay, so when growth occurs, it is mostly unevenly distributed. There are a lot of people that in the same economy, they would agree with you that the economy is growing because they are benefiting. We've mentioned content creators a number of times. You don't know how much those people are making off content creation. I mean,
they even get paid in foreign currency sometimes.
Foreign currencies, not sometimes. Endorsements from growing your pages and all of that. They are making money, and that is why, the statistics is showing that these are areas that are growing and contributing more, because that's where, I won't say an average Nigerian. So I would say that those that are less exposed, are still more concerned with buying and selling. Do you understand? And we could see that manufacturing sector is not growing as much. So what they buy and sell is also affecting them. We could see that the agricultural sector that most of them are involved with, it has not grown that much. So such set of people will not feel it. So it's an uneven growth, right? While some people are making money off the economy, they won't complain.
All right. So as we wrap this up, summary, what you're saying is that the economy typically
It's
grows,
growing.
but globally it might be uneven. There'll be certain nationally. Okay, it's not a global standard.
We're talking about Nigeria in this context.
Yeah, but Nigeria, I like to compare to see so we can ask our government you're not doing it right or wrong. That's why I want to see the global standard. Globally, do you have economic growth evenly, or there are some parts of the economy that will grow and some might be playing catch up?
Yes, it is. It is possible globally in other countries. Because of course some sectors will grow faster than others.
All right.
So that's why we also have fastest growing economy sector of the economy, right? Okay, I think
just to ask, because we need to wrap up.
I also need to say something that the economy didn't grow as faster than it grew in Q4 2024, right? In Q4 2024, the economy grew after rebasing. It grew before rebasing. It was 3.84 for the entire year, and I think it was 3.84 for Q4. Right. And and after rebasing, it is 3.76%. But for Q1 2025, it is 3.13%, which means I didn't grow faster. It declined compared to Q4. But the rate of growth was not as much as Q4.
Yeah, but you analysts confuse us a bit, because oftentimes you compare year on year.
So it grew faster than Q1 2024.
In year on year.
Okay. So Q1 2024 was around 22 or 27%.
Okay.
Right. So the economy did 2.7.
2.7. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So it didn't grow as much in Q1, but 2024. But Q1 2025 grew faster than Q1. Right. But not faster than Q4 2024.
All right. Thank you so much.